Back in 2020, this condo in downtown Toronto sold for $650,000. Fast forward to today, it sold for $560,000. That's almost $100,000 loss. Another example, in the year of 2021, in the famous ICE condos, a condo sold for $788,000 and now it's sold for $710,000. That's almost an $80,000 drop. So there are tons of condos on the market right now which are sitting on the market and are not selling. And why is that? The main reason is the investors are missing from the market because numbers are not making sense for them. And second reason why Toronto real estate market is literally on freeze right now is because of tariff threats from the south of the border. That is why we experienced the lowest number of sales in the month of March 2025 as compared to last 10 years. So in today's video, I'm going to uncover what exactly is happening in Toronto's real estate market so that you can make an informed decision. And if you get any value out of this content, then please smash the like button and also please do subscribe to the channel. And if you got any questions about real estate, you can book a call with me by clicking on the first link mentioned in the description below. So before we deep dive into numbers, I just want to clarify that not all condos are selling at a loss or taking a hit. It is true the condos or the examples I showed you, the sellers of those condos took a hit. But there are also instances where the condos have done well. For example, this listing at 1 Market Street, this is a good building in a good neighborhood. It was listed for $534,000 and it sold for $560,000 basically over asking in just 6 days. And this was recently sold, that is on 25th March of this year. And if you see the price history, this was bought for $261,000 in 2013 and was sold recently for $560,000. So this goes to show over the long run, you tend to do well in real estate, even in a bad market like today. And also factors like floor plan, good building, good neighborhood, these factors matter a lot in making an investment good. So this building is a solid building. This unit also had a good floor plan and is located in St. Lawrence Market, which is a good neighborhood. So that is why this condo did well in terms of investment. And I agree that we don't see many examples, especially in today's market, where the condos are selling at an over ask. And one of the reasons for that is that in city, there is more ratio of condos which are not the best. Like more or less, there are cookie cutter condos or the condos where you cannot live long term or you will have a living experience long term. And there are limited condos which have good floor plans or where you'll have a good living experience. So if you're someone who's considering to buy a condo, I would highly suggest to look for a condo with a good floor plan in a good building and in a good neighborhood. So now let's go ahead and run the numbers to see what exactly is happening in Toronto's real estate market. So here's the data of all property types in Toronto proper, that is 416 area. And if you see in the month of March, this data is just for the month of March, and there were just shy of 2,000 properties which were sold in whole of Toronto proper. And the average price we're looking at is 1.1 million. I think it's hiding behind my screen. I'm going to put this on the right side of the screen for your reference. And out of the all total number of properties which were sold, that is 196. Out of those, 46% were sold were condos and 30% were sold, almost 30% were detached properties which were sold out of 1966, and then 11% were semi-detached and then condo townhouses, and the balance is other. Okay, and if you see the maximum amount of properties which were sold were between the price point of $500,000 to $600,000. That kind of makes sense. They were 289, and the second highest properties were sold between the price range of 1 million to 1.25 million. That was 259 properties were sold in that price point. And the third highest category is between the price point of $600,000 to 699, and 226 properties were sold. And it is interesting to see there are 180 properties which were sold in the month of March in whole of Toronto area, which were beyond the price point of 2 million. So that is very interesting to see. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to niche down what's happening in downtown Toronto in CO1 and CO8 area and see what's happening over there. So here's the data of downtown core, that is CO1 and CO8 area. So that's where you can find cluster of condos. So I'm going to niche down just for condos in this segment. So in the month of March, there were 287 condos which were sold in downtown Toronto, and out of those transactions, the majority of the transaction happened between the price point of $500,000 to $599K, and the second highest were between the price point of $600,000 to $699,000, and the third was between the price point of $700,000 to $799,000. And if I further break down this data and see what condos were sold at what price points, if we see one bedrooms, there were 73 condos were sold, and the majority of them were sold between the price point of $500,000 $599,000 to $599,000. And if you check out 2 bedrooms, there were 165 condos which were sold in the month of March in downtown Toronto, and the majority of them were sold between the highest number of sales happened between the price point of $600,000 to $699,000. And 3 bedrooms, there were just 44 sales which happened in the month of March, and majority of them sold between the price point of $800,000 to $899,000. And one more interesting fact is, if I click on studios, so there were 4 transactions in total in the month of March, and 3 of them sold between the price point of $300,000 to $399,000. So now let's do a quick condo occupancy analysis to know who are selling these condos. So as of today in downtown Toronto, there are 2,830 condos which are currently listed for sale. And out of these total condos, there are 736 condos which are listed for sale as tenanted properties. So this goes to show 26% of the market share is by investors who are trying to sell their condos or offload their condos. So, and out of these total condos of 2,830, 1,098 are vacant properties which are currently listed on market, which is basically 46% of the market share. And out of these 1,298 condos, by working on the ground level, I think about like 50 to 60% or even 70% are going to be owned by the investors. I don't have a data to back this up, but this is what I see by working on the ground level. And rest are maybe owner occupied or are owned by owners, and they have moved on to their next property and trying to offload this property. And 747 out of the whole condos which are currently listed are 747, which is 26% of the market share. So this is legit owner occupied properties, not investors. And about just shy of 1% is owner and tenanted properties, which are basically owner is living with a shared accommodation with another tenant. Okay, so this data gives us an idea that a lot of investors are trying to offload their condos. So now let's do one more analysis, that is sold condo occupancy analysis in downtown Toronto. This is basically, I'm going to do analysis of the properties or the condos which were sold in the month of March. So what type of properties were sold? Were they tenanted or vacant or owner occupied? Okay, so there were total condos sold were 309. Okay, one more thing I want to point out is that this data is different from the data we just showed about the condos, because there are 287 condos were sold in CO1 and CO8 area. So this data I pulled out manually. So this also includes lockers and parking. So that's why this has creeped up to 309. But you will get an idea what type of properties were sold, that is tenanted or vacant. So out of 309 condos were sold in the month of March, 36 were tenanted properties, that's only 12%. Vacant were 54%, and owner occupied were 33%. So this, in a nutshell, this gives an idea that tenanted properties are selling less as opposed to vacant and owner occupied properties. So if you're a seller in this market and you're trying to sell tenanted properties, it is going to be a little difficult as opposed to vacant and owner occupied properties. So now let's go ahead and do the analysis of condo market in downtown core. I'm going to niche down to just to downtown core, that is CO1 area. So let's get right into it. So here's a trend line showing the data of March 2024 up till March 2025, and the prices have come down about by 7%. Number of sales have reduced by 30%. So that's something to keep an eye out on. And if I do a month-over-month analysis, prices are more or less remained flat. It's down by 1.5% to 2% over here, and the sales have slightly increased, not too much, because if we are doing a comparison from February to March, in February we typically or traditionally tend to see less number of sales, so it's not the best comparison for the sales, but the prices, they have come down about by 2%. And going forward, we'll have to see how things pan out. It really depends upon tariff situation, and also as well as we are in the middle of elections. So once we have passed elections and once we have new leadership in place, then I think we will see a slightly uptick in the number of sales. I'm not saying prices and number of sales, but we'll have to see how it pans out. So now I'm going to quickly talk about the key factors that drive the real estate values. So first is employment level, population growth, global factors, and political factors as well, and interest rates. So employment level, the unemployment in the city have been creeping up, so that's something we'll have to keep an eye out. The economy is not in the best shape right now, so that is something we'll have to keep an eye out on. Population growth, the government has taken action to simmer down the immigration levels, but they have primarily targeted these international students and as well as non-permanent residents. But the permanent residents are still, the inflow of permanent residents are still at pretty record levels, so that is also we have to keep a close eye on. So if I show you a chart over here, the orange trend line or the orange bar is basically not net non-permanent residents, and the blue bars are basically for net permanent residents. So if you see the blue ones, the blue bar, that is permanent residents, PRs, they are still at high level, and this data is going to go a little low. That is, the non-permanent residents have come down, or the government has taken action to control the non-permanent residents. So that's going to affect the rental market more as opposed to buying and selling of the market. Fourth is global and political factors, and as well as interest rates. So I'm not going to deep dive into those, but what I feel is once we have new leadership, new government in place, and once we have tariff chaos get sorted out and interest rates stabilize, combination of these factors, once these all fall in place, I think then we'll see more activity in the market as opposed to what we're seeing it today. Okay, so that's pretty much. I hope I was able to give you some value, and if I did, then please subscribe to the channel. It really helps the small channel like this to grow. And thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.